name that I know. Hello, Aline. Hello, Joe. Hello, everybody. So as Mia introduced me, Mia and I connect a lot on sustainability and environment. And for sure, I think a lot of you guys would agree that environment and sustainability and food have a lot in common. But today I'm gonna share a few tips and tools about meal planning. I think it applies for all of us, whether you have children or not. I think it's planning is definitely always a good tool. And probably some of you had their plan changed by COVID. Maybe you had more time or less time to deal with family meals. So we'll have a look at this together. And sometimes I talk about nutrition. Let me know. Everybody can see my screen, right? I'm going to share a few snapshot and picture. Everybody can see my screen. Mia, do you want to, if you can write in the chat, if you can, yes. Okay, super. Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Sarah. So sometimes when people, say, oh, you're a dietitian, what should I eat and whatnot? And I tend to compare nutrition and fitting because we love nutrition and a lot of us look for answers. Sometimes the amount of information out there can get confusing at best, a little bit overwhelming. And when people look for answers, for example, about meal planning or for how to eat healthy, sometimes it's a little bit as if you're walking into the desert looking for water and you're digging a little bit of a hole to like get to some water, like to get a well of water. And you're like, oh, it's not working. So you're changing and you're trying something new. So you dig a little bit and you try something else, and you dig a little bit and you try something else. And you end up with like so many things you've tried, or maybe so many diets, so many planning, so many tools, so many apps, and you still don't have water. You still don't feel super confident and inspired necessarily about nutrition. Give me a yes if that sounds a little bit like how you feel about nutrition sometimes. Either a little bit in a sandstorm of like things coming from all over the place, or just like you feel like you're digging, and you're like just not getting anywhere. Yeah, I see some amen. me. Okay. So what I want to do today is, maybe some of you about meal planning feel a little bit uninspired. Some people tell me sometimes that they're bored about what they eat, a little bit overwhelmed. If you have some kids that are homeschool, you have all my love and compassion and respect for managing all the changing environment during COVID. So a high 10, high five, 10 to you, because it's a challenging environment. So today I'm going to try to give you a boost and kind of decrease the anxiety around meal planning and try to aim for like very simple tools. So can I change screens? Okay. So when it comes to food, what would you say, if you can type in the comments, what would you say is the first question that people ask dietitians? What would you say is the thing that I hear the most? Is there anybody there, or I'm speaking to myself? What would you say is oil bad for you? Yeah, definitely some good and bad question. How can I eat less? Yeah, how can I lose weight? What should I eat? Should I stop eating meat? Okay, some environmental questions. And you're exactly right that a lot of it is about what to eat. What should I eat? Should I eat this? Should I eat that? How much should I eat? So if you see on my mind map, if you know me a little or a lot, you know that I love mind maps and I love to put ideas and connect ideas together and kind of see the big pictures instead of just focusing on one little thing. I think sometimes we do that in nutrition and we focus on one aspect and lose the big picture. But at the end of the day, a lot of the question I would get asked is, what should I eat and how much? And today we're kind of going to reverse engineering that for Aline, that is designing a really cool product. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about reverse engineering, and we're gonna look at who prepares the meal, how do we deal with the planning, what kind of cooking skills do we need, and a little bit about this logistic, because at the end of the day, what we eat and how much we eat depends on most of the time what we buy and what we cook And I feel that sometimes we lose that bridge, right? We learn, we read blogs and articles about what we should eat, how much we should eat, but the bridge between the knowledge and the application, the knowledge and the practice, the knowledge and the action, sometimes we just get overwhelmed and we drop the ball in the middle. So in general, the way that I deal with nutrition and what I specialize in is more about eating psychology and people's relationship with food, and how we can be also role model for future generation in terms of body image, in terms of sustainability, and in terms of emotional intelligence, especially when it comes to food. So it is a balance between food science and food satisfaction. And that's where meal planning comes in, right? I think that everybody would agree that cooking is definitely some science, but there's definitely a lot of emotion and a lot of skills and almost art that comes into this. So balance between science, nutrition science, and satisfaction, and then you get meal planning, and you get an amazing family meals to share with the people you love most. So today, what we're going to go through together is a few questions that I want to ask you to set the table, and then some action and some tools. And the reason why I want to start with some questions is because I am an expert in nutrition, and I have an expertise in sitting in one-to-one and caring about what people experience, what their struggles are about nutrition, what their health issues are, and individualizing each habit and lifestyle and kind of health journey to one person. So when I talk to groups, what I like to do is to acknowledge, okay, I'm an expert in nutrition, but you're also an expert at your own life. And the question that I'm going to ask you to start with sometimes can be more powerful than just a broad recommendation of eat more vegetables, right? Because it's connecting what you know and what actually happens in a day-to-day when life gets super busy and you need to homeschool and cook and shop and just deal with the day-to-day. So we're just going to take a time together to reflect and try to be as efficient as possible in the 45 minutes that we're going to go through the questions, action, and tools together. Does that sound good? Can I get a whoop whoop in the chat before I get started with my first question? How can we encourage kids to eat more veggies? Okay, thank you. Okay, super. So I'm going to start with the first question. I hope that you got the first message. If you have, it would be really, really useful if you can have a pen and a paper with you, because I'm going to ask you to write things down. All right, so pen and a paper, and we'll get started. Okay. So my first question for you, I want you to tell me what is your biggest struggle. And if you were on the Facebook page event for today, I was asking that question. I wanted to get a sense of what people were struggling with. So can you type in the chat box, what is your biggest struggle when it comes to meal or to planning meals for yourself and your husband, for yourself and your family? What is your biggest struggle? Is it inspiration? So do you not know what to cook, or you tend to get lost into the Google black hole of recipes? Or do you kind of feel that you're always in a rush and you're not sure like that, you know, that you're gonna have enough time to accomplish everything you want to do and to prepare healthy meals? Do you feel that the shopping is your issue, like getting food or buying the food and then it going to waste? Or missing some ingredients when you want to cook? Do you feel like dispatching the work or communicating what's going to be for dinner is your issue? Or not feeling like super confident about cooking and having kind of a skill motivation kind of challenge? Some people sometimes tell me that they don't like to cook, and I think reality is that we all need to eat, but the level of complexity of the cooking, I think, can be very, very, very variable. So I don't really believe that you need to be in the kitchen for hours a day to eat well. Or is it mostly nutrition balance? So on the Facebook group, a lot of I think the top one was about nutrition balance, and I'll definitely cover that with you today. Maybe in a different way than you expect, but okay, so let me just go through inspiration, what to cook. Okay, preparing healthy dishes that my kids will eat. Perfect. Time to cook, What is convenient to cook, nutritious, and yummy? So taste, satisfaction, nutrition, food science all together. Super. Ideas and contradiction between counting and not counting macros. Okay. Difficulty of new recipes. Yeah, for sure. And trying to figure, and helping children without seeming naggy. Yeah, okay. That could be a whole new different talk about like how to handle like kids and food and what we call quote unquote picky eaters, or what they want or not want to eat. All right. So a lot of it is about inspiration, nutrition, balance, and we'll go through those steps for sure today. Second question I want to ask, and I want you to write this down. Maybe for you on the paper, you can write your top 3 things that you're struggling with, okay? What is like number 1, 2, 3, what are the 3 biggest things that you're like, you know what, I could probably improve? And I'm gonna get even a little bit more specific with the next question, because I want to ask you with those items that you see on the screen, I want to ask you to rate yourself from 0 to 10, 10 being the best. How would you rate your current situation? So your cooking skills, knowing what to cook. So your inspiration, like I pretty much know every day what I'm gonna cook, like what I like to cook, what my kids like to eat, okay? So 0 to 10, what would you rate yourself for knowing what to cook? 10 being the best. Okay, Delia is like a 2, so inspiration is a big deal. 6 for Michelle, 5 for Sarah, 5 for Mia. Okay, so you all think that there's a lot of room for improvement. What about being efficient? How efficient do you feel about cooking, meal planning, this entire like food thing, feeding your family or feeding yourself? How efficient do you feel? 10 being the best, again. Write this down in the chat, and if you want on a piece of paper. So write efficiency, 0 to 10, what would be your rate? Okay, 5, 6, 7. Joe 2, okay. Cozy, okay, I'll check this out. Okay. 5, okay. What about having some available ingredients on hand? 0 to 10, 10 being the best. How would you rate yourself here? Write it down for you later, because we're gonna use that later, those kind of questions. So Christina, 10, good. So you always have everything on hand to cook, so that's good. Maybe you're missing the inspiration. Mia, 6, Alina, 7, okay. So pretty good. You have things, but maybe sometimes you lack the inspiration. Super. What about delegating or feeling supported, asking for help, having kind of this aspect covered up? 0 to 10, 10 being the best. Good support, super. And I feel like here, you know, in the UAE, if you are in the UAE, sometimes there's, you know, nannies or cooks and amazing support that we can get at home that can help with that. Sometimes it's just about that communication, like delegating, feeling supported, organizing that communication. Okay, so Marie is a 1. Okay, so you're a little bit like the weight of the cooking is on your shoulder a lot of the time, probably. Knowing how to cook, 0 to 10, like having good cooking skills, 0 to 10, what would you tell me? How would you rate yourself, 10 being the best? All right, so some variety of answers there. Okay, so we realize everybody has really different realities, right? Sometimes from a support standpoint, sometimes from a creativity standpoint, sometimes from a skill, or sometimes from a time standpoint. And what about enjoyment of cooking? 0 to 10, 10 being the best. How much do you enjoy cooking? 10, 10, 10. Oh, cool. Okay. Christina, 7. Yeah. And if I'm honest with you about that point, like I love cooking, but I also love how many other things there are to do in the world. So I want always to like optimize people's time and energy about cooking, because eating healthy doesn't mean that you need to think about food 24/7. That's for sure. I don't think it's healthy to do that, actually. And eating healthy. Well, how would you rate your current the healthiness of your meal, 0 to 10, 10 being the best? What would you rate your meals at home? Alina is a 9, growing fresh produce, so I know that your salad must be amazing. Okay, 7, 8, 7.5. Love the precision. Super. Okay, all right. So we can see, I like to put things on a scale because we can see what is the lowest, what needs more attention. You know what was your priority before. So you took your notes for the question 1 and 2. Now I want to ask you something else, because I think that probably changed a lot for people during COVID. If you were to tell me over, like, you know, 7 days, so 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 7 dinners, what percentage or what, like, kind of the ratio would you be cooking yourself? So it would be like you would be cooking yourself the meal. It makes a big difference if you cook or if you are cooked for or if you order. So on 100, 1 out of 7 days you cook. Okay, who else? 1 or 2 out of 7. Okay, you would cook the meals. 7 out of 7 for Sarah. Michelle, 7 out of 7. Okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind. Okay, 5 or 6. Okay, how many days a week or how many meals a week are you being cooked for? Somebody else cooks for you. Your husband, maybe the nanny, you have maybe a cook at home. So some people have amazing nanny. Okay, 1 meal a week. All right. Maybe that's spaghetti bolognese. 1 or 2 meals is being cooked by somebody else. Okay. How often during the week would you have kind of a leftover option? So sometimes you probably can mix up cooking and leftovers, but if you're thinking about the days where you eat food that you prepared, maybe have leftover night or kind of a mix and match, how often do you use that technique of leftovers, cooking double portions? How often does that look? Never. 3 or 4 more recently. Okay. Yeah, 1 or 2 meals, 3. Okay. So some people are using that, some people are not at all. Some people like fresh food. Perfect. Okay. How many meals a week would you say you order food from outside to be delivered? 20111, 5 times a year. Okay, that's good. I wonder what are the occasions if it's 5 times a year. Okay, so never order. I think Mia would agree that when we order less, there's less plastic waste. Okay, what about eating out? How many times a week do you guys eat out? It's gonna give me a little bit of an idea of how we're gonna go about this today. 0 to 1. Okay. Especially now and with COVID, we eat less outside. Okay. What about the next question I want to ask you is, when is the most convenient for you or the person that to cook? More realistic, convenient or realistic? Is it morning, afternoon, evening, or weekends? Do you do a lot of meal prep on the weekend or you don't? And if so, you can give me an idea of how long you cook, for example, per day when you're cooking. Weekends, afternoon, lunches at work. Okay. Weekends. Okay, so we have some weekends planner, some afternoon planner. Evening, but tiring then, yes. And sometimes it can be just about that. I have a lot of people that tell me when they can, they'll like have a pot of slow cooker or prep the night before for 2 meals, and then we'll just have to put something in the oven. So we can definitely think about timing. Okay, super. So I have a little bit of an idea of how you guys where you guys stand in terms of that. And because we're kind of a group and I want to make it as applicable to you guys as possible, I want to give you a few actions. I think I have five actions that we're going to go through together to start from where you are and try to move forward. Okay. And before I get that started, because that is kind of one of my passion is to like kind of debunk a lot of things about nutrition. And I want to start by debunking one thing that I hear a lot, where, you know, nutrition is a lot about knowledge, motivation, and willpower. And I really don't think that that's an accurate way of looking at things, or like just looking at, yeah, if you know things and if you're motivated and if you have the willpower, everything will go well. But reality is, you know, there's a lot of things that are biological that comes into play, especially when the day gets busy, and they do matter in how we're going to meal plan, how we're going to eat, what choice we're going to make. So I want to touch for like 30 seconds on a concept that I think can be super helpful for some of my clients in terms of meal planning, is the concept of just having a quick check-in with hunger. I think everybody knows that going grocery shopping when we're starving is a bad idea, because we just want to buy the entire grocery store. Anybody has this experience of going grocery shopping hungry and just wanting to, you know, spending a lot more than you planned for? But funny enough, I think sometimes we forget to consider that hunger and the intensity of that hunger when we're cooking, meal planning, or ordering food. All right. So I put hunger on a scale, 0 being not hungry at all, 10 being starving. And 7, 8, 9, and 10 would be increasingly hungry, uncomfortably hungry. 10 on 10 is like emergency hunger, really, really intense hunger. That's where I fight with my husband about what we're going to eat. He wants to eat burger. And I'm like, rah, 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 and then we fight. And that's not a good thing. Like, that's kind of the angry phase, right? And I feel that at the end of, Marie's laughing at me, at the end of the day, sometimes people get home from work or add like a lot of busy activities in the afternoon. You get home, you're starving, and then somebody asks the dreadful question, what's for dinner? And then you're like, oh my God, like, seriously, do I need to answer this? And so being in that zone, acknowledging that hunger is not like, is more powerful often than motivation, knowledge, and willpower, is a big part of how we can improve meal planning. I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable to meal plan or to cook when we're not starving. So I want to ask you quickly, what would you tell me if you were dividing over 100%, how much of your day you spend into eating when you're not hungry, maybe because you're stressed or bored or pickish or anxious? How much do you spend in a comfortable hunger, so that you feel that you have a good comfort level around hunger? You eat when you're hungry and then you move on and you do other things and you're fueled for a long time. And how much of your day do you think that you spend into an emergency eating hunger, an uncomfortable level of hunger, where your body kind of, your brain shuts down and your body is like, you feed me or we're gonna die? So can you give me a little bit of a split of that? Kind of the emotional, mindless eating, how much of your day is uncomfortable hunger, and how much is an emergency hunger? And that can be a tough questions to answer, because being busy kind of comes as the blanket over hunger sometimes. And it's as if, you know, when your kids are like, mom, like, I need this. And then you're like, shh, I'm doing something else. I'm on the phone. Like, shh. And that's kind of what we do in our bodies in so many ways. Like, the body is like, hey, I'm kind of running low on fuel. I'm hungry. And you're like, shh, got things to do. Shh. I'm going to call. Shh, I'm doing this. And the body's going to take it. It's going to, you know, like, settle down and be like, okay, like I'll leave you alone. But sometimes we go from 0 to 10 because we kind of suppressed our hunger all day. And then when we get home, the pressure drops, the kids run to you, they give you a hug. And now, like, all of a sudden hunger punches you in the face a little bit and be like, oh wow, you kind of ignore me all day. So this is where I am. Okay, let me just read the comment. A lot now while working from home and being on video calls all day. A lot now, what area are you in, Alina? 95% comfortable hunger unless lots of urgent tasks. Exactly, yeah, come from work. I usually eat when I feel hungry. Okay, okay. Sometimes I forget to eat and then I'm so hungry that I get stomachache. Yeah. Yeah. So just have like a little think about, and maybe in the coming days you can try to rate your hungers, do like a little bit of a check-in, get out of your head and then go into your body to be like, okay, how do I feel right now? And for some people that is a big deal when it comes to meal planning. So we can choose when we cook, maybe, or when we plan for food when we're not in an emergency eating situation. All right, does that make sense for everybody? I know it's a concept that sometimes is a little bit obvious, but also hard to go over, because that concept of hunger is part of body intelligence and intuitive eating, which is making food decision from interior factors, right? Like you're basing your decision on how you feel physically, on maybe sometimes on cravings and on different things. And the reality is you're going to crave carbs when you're 7 to 10 hungry. That is a survival mechanism. And giving a little bit of credit to how you feel and honoring your hunger often gets rid of a lot of the craving, because we're less on a hunger swing. So just trying to diving a little bit into body intelligence before we go back in our brain to do the meal planning. All right. Second action that we're going to take together, and that is, I would say, like a big part of what you can make a headway with the meal planning. I want you to take a pen and a paper, and I want you to answer kind of the question, what's for dinner? And I want you to do that. So I don't want you to think about what you should be eating, what's saved in your Pinterest about what you should be cooking, or like a recipe that people give you. I want us to do your top 15 meals, if you can get to 15. We're going to take 5 minutes to do that. And we're going to go through the most often, I'll call them go-to meals, or most eaten meals, the things that you have like kind of a little bit on repeat at home, that are your kind of your quick fix default setting meals that you have often at home. Okay. So write them on a piece of paper, type them in the chat box, but we're going to do a lot with those meals. So I want you to write them down, try to write as many as possible. Sometimes people like are telling me like, what is it that I do eat? I'm not sure. I can't remember. But take a few minutes to just check in with yourself. If your husband or your kids are around, like you can ask them like, what do we normally eat? Just have a little check about that. All right. Take a few minutes per dish or per meal. I'm not sure. So we'll do per dish if your lunch and your dinner. Let's not do breakfast. Let's focus on lunch and dinner, because that's mostly what we plan for. Depending if you're probably planning a little bit more lunch now if the kids are at home, probably more lunch boxes if they're at school, but we can mostly focus maybe on the evening meal if that's easier for you, or whatever meal you have more trouble with. Everything on the plate. Yeah. So tell me, like, what are the most often meals that you eat? What is on your plate every dinner, for example? What's your rotation? And if I can have like a few people, if you're comfortable, to kind of give me some example in the chat of what are your go-to meals. Normally I have people face to face to see how the reactions are, but it's silent here. Dinner, pasta pesto, cereal, chicken in a pot, salmon with salad, rice and chicken, grills and bread. Kids dinner, vegetable pasta, stir fry, veggie, chicken, pizza. Okay, yeah. Take your time, try to write down like as in detail as possible which recipe you like, and we'll go from there. Default setting, cereal with milk. Yeah. Breakfast for dinner. Definitely a big fan of that. Okay. How many meals in like I don't know, it's been probably 2-3 minutes. How many meals can you come up with from the top of your head about your most eaten meals? How many meals do you have on your list? And I want to ask you that because it really does matter what you do already. It matters. There's a reason why we do what we do. Often it's because of meal preferences, because of preferences of people in our family. And it does really matter what you do already. And we'll build from that, right? We'll build from what you have. So 3 or 4, it's harder than you think. Yes, 8, 5, yeah. So ideally I aim with people to have like the kind of a range of 15 meals. But that can take a little bit more than 2 or 3 minutes. It can take a brainstorm with your partner. But the goal is to export your brain to see what is it that I do kind of automatically, what are the recipes that come back, what are maybe the recipes that are quickest for you, all right? So we have this list of, you know, when you're busy and when there's a lot of things that are changing and where you're busy adapting, the one thing that I often start with people by doing is we're gonna export your brain. There's no way I can know what you eat. And if I give you like a already made meal plan, or this is a recipe that you should eat, it might stick a little bit. You might like 1 or 2 recipes that I'm going to give you, but reality is people are very different. And I don't think that the healthy, you know, diet should look like quinoa and kale for everybody. It's not a thing. I don't think that everybody should eat the same. I see a lot of people with, you know, Arabic food kind of taste, and we can definitely build around that. So that list of go-to meals is like the first thing that we do. And that's what we're going to use for the next few steps. I also would like you to take a few minutes. Oh, Maria's 10 so far, but would have more for sure. And the goal is to find a sweet spot, okay? That the reason why I give 15, and it might not be 15 for everybody, but we need a sweet spot of options that is exported from our brain, that is like manageable. Google is not manageable because there's too many options. Sometimes cookbooks are also not manageable because there's too many options. So if you're to do one thing about meal planning, I would say export your brain, and I'll take you to the next step. But exporting your brain to like what you normally do is a very, very good step to have like that sweet spot being between being overwhelmed and being bored, having not enough option and having too much option. Right? And we want to keep them in one place, even if it's not like perfectly written. Stick it on your fridge and have that as a quick inspiration for yourself. It's a brainstorm. It's a ever-evolving list. It doesn't mean that you need to eat those food, but they're a reminder of what you normally have as options. All right. Second list that I would do with you to kind of put things into perspective and export your brain again is to have a second list. And we're going to take a little bit less time on that, but I just want to open the conversation about dividing things into 2. The go-to safe meals list and the forget and delight, maybe things that you miss from home that you're excited about when you go to the restaurant, that takes a little bit more time to make, that are a little bit more special, okay? And I want you to make a list of that, of things that you find exciting, that are maybe not coming back as often, and what is, you know, novelty and rarity is exciting for us, for all of us, for everything, not just food. So take 1 minute, 2 minutes to jot down, like, what do I miss eating from home? I miss my really random dad's salad. He just put a lot of things. It's never the same, but it kind of always tastes the same. So that's one thing that I miss that I can probably recreate, but I haven't in a long time. So, or if I go to the restaurant, I often go for fish, or like things that you forgot in the life, things that you don't necessarily think about or cook often. Does that make sense? And anything in that category that come up for you that you, oh yeah, I never cooked this meal? Or maybe you revisited a lot of your delights during COVID because you had the time. I don't know. What comes up for you on that list? Let me know in the chat what you are thinking about. What's the question again? Christina, are you asking about the question for the forgotten delight? Or did I answer that? For one pot wonders, yeah, okay. Okay. Anybody? Anybody's there? You're busy, maybe you're just busy writing your list. Yeah, we could definitely make some lists for the dessert. I would say that I would definitely try to aim for like some maybe dinner meals, but you know, love desserts, so definitely can put them there as well. Not sure which question I missed. Now now on my second list. Super. Okay, so second list, forgotten delight. Write a few things there. We can take a little bit more time later. You're right, Joe. Dauphinoise potatoes take a little bit more time for sure, so you can write those there. Okay, so I just want to, if you leave with anything today, leave with those two lists. You have exported your brain. Okay, this is what I eat often, this is what I miss. Can I do a merge? Can I pull some things for the forgotten delight? Sometimes in the forgotten delight there's some, you know, really balanced, healthy, tasty meals that we forgot about, that we tried so many years ago, that somebody made for us, that we ate in a restaurant, that we want to recreate or try to recreate at home. Okay, now we're going to go back to our first list. So take your first list again, and the action 3 is for us to look at it together and to go from knowledge to application, to fill in the gaps about what we eat most often. All right, and so I want you to look at your list and have a critical view. It's a lot harder than I thought without like some visual feedback of your faces. But I want you to look at your list and tell me, okay, what do I have on my list? Do I have mostly warm meals? Do I have mostly cold dishes? Do I have mostly things that, you know, I kind of build my meals around the protein? So chicken, salmon, or, you know, beef, or do you mostly like have things on your list that are based on the protein? Or do you have certain styles of dishes like salads and soups and pasta that come back often? Do you think that your default setting is one of those? I default to soup because they're kind of a one pot wonder deal, or I default to pasta because everybody likes it. What do you notice on your list when you're looking at the option that you eat most often? Your most often go-to meals, default setting, SOS food. What do you notice? I'd love some more child-friendly vegetarian meals. Yeah, okay, let me write that down so that I can go back. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go over a few steps that I want you to do to get more precise about how we can use the list that you have and improve it. So the first thing that we're gonna do when we look at pasta pesto speedy to make, for sure. So the first way that we're gonna review this list is to look at the combination and the balance. Okay, and I don't think that's going to be surprising for any of you. So I'm Canadian. I would use a little bit of the healthy plates. I can send it to you if you want, but it's nothing like really rocket science. Everybody knows that, yeah, we should put like vegetables. We aim it to be between like 30 and 50% of your dish. We aim some carbs to be there, about like 30%. Some protein about 30% or 25%. So we aim to have this combination, right? And the reason for that is that when we mix protein, carbs, and veggies together, we have a steadier energy curves. And my kids doesn't like anything in my list. Okay, so, and we can talk about that a little bit, or we can have another entire session about that. And I think sometimes just venting about the fact that you're trying to expose your kid to variety, you're trying to like stay strong and be like, this is what's for dinner, like, and then sometimes it gets tiring. So I'm with you, Christina. This is not always easy. But if you look at your list, what do you notice about the combination? Okay, I call that the formula method used, and sometimes on the list that I work on with patients, I'm like, okay, so you write that you have chicken and rice. quite often. This is kind of a quick fix dinner. What could we add on the side if we wanted to balance it out? And a lot of you guys were asking me about how is it that I can eat more balanced, nourishing meals. One I think of the most efficient way to do that is look at the meals that we eat most often and improve the balance from there. So it can be, we're gonna add a side dish to a combination that we do often. So let's say pasta pesto, I'm gonna add a combination, maybe I'll drop in some frozen spinach in there so that I can combine protein, carbs, vegetables. Sometimes I'm gonna switch the regular pasta by chickpea pasta so that I get more protein, all right? And then I have the seasoning. I can switch maybe a little bit of seasoning. Does that make sense to you? What do you notice on your list about what you could, from what you do already, from what you do great already, because I'm taking that you feed your family, everybody's alive and healthy, hopefully. So you have what you normally do. How can you improve some of those meal combination or quick fix? Please let me know in the chat. I want to see your wheel turning, your brain working. How would you improve one of the dish that is on your list? So how would you pimp or boost your pasta pesto? Soup is always a go-to. And soup can be a really good go-to where you have your protein, you have your carbs, you have your vegetables, you have some different seasoning, maybe a peanut kind of soup, or maybe more of the, like on the soy sauce kind of side, or maybe on the simple herbs broth. Lots of options for the one pot wonder soup kind of meal for sure. Maybe use some seeds as topping, yeah? So you would, for what dish would you pimp up? Anybody see some things on their list that they can be improved in terms of balance, ingredients, combination? More veg in the lasagna, yeah. Homemade pasta, yeah. There's also edamame pasta that if you want a little bit more protein, you can put into a lasagna. Yeah. Anything else that you're seeing? Okay, I'm not getting a lot of comments, but I'm taking that you're working really hard on your list. All right, so you have your list. I want you to review a little bit the options in combination. In some cases, we can maybe double up or drop in some veggies in the mix. In some other cases, we can have a side dish to complete the dish. I would say that often with pizza, I really don't think that pizza is a bad food, but sometimes because we're not super planned, or because we wait until we're too hungry to order, we'll order pizza as a lifesaver because we get home from work and we're starving, and we'll order some pizza. It's going to be kind of our default setting. And if we were to plan a little bit ahead and then order the pizza, but have kind of a prepared, throw together a quick salad, then we would have a little bit better combination, and we would probably end up eating a little bit less pizza and feeling a bit lighter and more energized after the meal. I think you're suggesting to add soup is a good idea, especially if the dish is dry. Yeah, so soup can be a very good side dish to a lot of different combination. So now have a look at your list, and I want you to like make a quick code. You can write your own code. This is what I sometimes go through with people, is you want to have some all-in-one recipes. Somebody was calling that like a one-pot wonder. You want some of those on your list. Is sometimes people have like rice, chicken, and vegetables, and if you cook 3 different things, that's maybe more time, and so you want to have some all-in-one dishes. You want to have some things that are easy to have leftovers, and then you can maybe quote, okay, do I have mostly things that are quick to make, or do I have things that take more time and more preparation? And then I want to have some option, and I'll give you more details about that, about SOS kind of options. Like, this is my last resort, so quick. So maybe for some people, pasta and pesto is their last resort really quickly. All right. So do you notice any gap again on your list? Do you notice if most of your meals are like longer to cook? Do you have all in one? What do you notice about what you already do? What do you notice about that list that you have? How can we make that better? Instead of trying to start from scratch and plan 7 days a week of new dishes and try 7 new dishes, how could we improve the recipes that you already have at home and maybe try a few side dishes that you know could work, or a variation of you already have? So you guys know anything, if you kind of coding your list, what do you have on there? You do want to have 2 or 3 SOS, the quickest thing. And I'm going to give you some ideas of SOS. And it's always dangerous for me to do that because everybody has different taste buds. But, you know, here are some of the ideas that I would say would be on my list of SOS meal combination. So the first one could be smoked salmon. In that case, I put smoked mackerel. It's not necessarily something that everybody likes, but it's something that for me, for example, for lunch, if I don't need to please anybody else, that's a quick fix. If you need to please people, it could be a leftover, maybe chicken, and then you just throw some spinach. And I tend to bake a potato in the microwave. It takes 10 minutes. You just pierce the skin, you wash it, pierce the skin, you put it in the microwave, 5-7 minutes on one side, 5-7 minutes on the other one, and then you have a really tasty baked potato. Top friendly family quick meal is, yeah, that could be a good things to exchange. Maybe even after the session, we could all throw, I can share some recipes, specific recipes with you. And then soup, bread, and kind of like breakfast for dinner, or some quick mix and match. I put here like a little bit of Sarah's favorite, like the pesto with some frozen veggies and some chickpea pasta. So that could be something. And if maybe not all kids would like pesto, so you can switch it around with other kind of tomato sauce, really quick fix. All right. I think I can try 1 new dish a week for the weekend to avoid monotony. Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, Christina. We do want to have a clear idea of what we do already, because I find that, you know, the reason why it was so hard for you guys to write down what you make is because we are always in action mode. We're always like trying to decide what's for dinner, what are we gonna cook? And today what I want kind of to switch around as a mindset is take a time to just reflect on what happened in most cases. What are the most eaten meals? From there, then we can move forward and add 1 new recipe to fill the gaps into what we're missing into that list, and to break the monotony, not like Christina is saying. All right. The other thing that I would suggest, and maybe that's not super applicable for you, I tend to see a lot of people that ordered from outside as a default setting. And I often say, be aware of your hunger when you do that, because sometimes that comes from a lack of planning and a really intense hunger. But it could also help to have a quick 3 to 4 list of things that you order at last minute when you don't have to cook, when you can't cook, don't have the time, the energy to cook. So you already have that listed, and you kind of look through that list and try to find a balance. Maybe what I was saying about pizza and something, or different things that you can mix and match. All right. So for Christina and Marie, when it comes to family-friendly quick meals, because people eat very differently, and we are blessed to be in the country where people are from all over the place, so I'm not going to assume that you guys all have the same cultural preferences, but there's one thing that I use as a tool to meal plan and to simplify the way that people look for recipes, because I find people get super overwhelmed. And I'm going to run you through that quickly, and you can let me know if that makes sense to you. So most people would like go into Google or Pinterest and look at different things. I find that the most efficient way to look for a recipe is to do it visually. So instead of looking for recipe in all, I would go into Google search image, and I would write 1 style of dishes. So maybe like right here I wrote pan-sheet dinner because it's super quick, and 1 ingredients salmon, but you could write 1 style and any ingredients. The second step would be to look at all the images. So you're going to have a very big diversity, right? Like so many dishes. And then you want to add one more ingredient. So I look at all the images. I look at what attracts my attention. And I add that to the search to refine my search. And then I would choose an image that kind of pleases my eyes, that looks like it's interesting. So it's a lot less, I find, intimidating than very much going to an all and clicking link by link. Like you do have the visual of what that looks like. And then you can go sort out, okay, does the ingredients look like I have that at home? Does the step look a little bit simple? All right. So try, if you want to try to simplify it, try to go into images. Maybe sometimes Pinterest is good for that, but you don't necessarily see the recipe. And so I love that idea. Sometimes my huge pile of cookbooks can be overwhelming, for sure. And what we want, again, Marie, is that we want to move away from having either too little options or too many options. So if you look at your list that you made and you're like, you know what, I'm kind of missing XYZ food, or I have a lot of this in my cupboards, I don't know how to use it. So I would put easy recipe chickpea, and then see what comes out. Find one that it attracts your eye, add another ingredients according to what attracts your eye in the recipes, and then you try to kind of do the funnel effect to make it a little bit more manageable and less overwhelming, because Google can be a black hole. All right? Okay, so that is something that you're going to need to be probably doing on your own. But one thing that is super important is that you have your list. And I think you guys were mostly saying that you're really good at keeping things on hand. But we want the go-to meals list to match your kitchen's essential. And sometimes I find that we miss that. We miss the link between what we cook often or we get stuck. So we want to, if we improve our go-to meals list and the variation and we added some side dishes, we want to make sure that that's reflected in our kitchen's essential. So this would be like a little bit of an inventory that I do of what I have at home. And then you could add your empty grocery list where you're like, okay, I need to add that, but you know that what you have or what you're trying to keep on hand all the time because of what your go-to meals list look like is reflected in your essentials. So we're definitely aiming for things that are longer shelf, like maybe some frozen options, some canned options, some definitely a lot of fresh, but balancing out what's on the go-to meals list and what's on the inspiration and essential master food list. All right. I'll also look at the number of reviews in the average quality. Yeah, that's a good point. So looking at the reviews and looking at what recipe was yeah, the most successful for sure. All right, I want to spend a little bit of time on time-saving checklist, and then we're going to move into question. I know Mia, you might be like slapping my wrist because I'm taking a little bit more time. But when you look, I want you to look at your first list again, your go-to meals list, okay? And I want us to look at it from a time-saving perspective and kind of go through it. You look dish by dish, or you know, your go-to option, and we want to see where we can save time. Okay, give me an example on what is on your go-to meals list. Let's say pasta, maybe pasta. So I'll give you, for example, if I was looking at pasta, sometimes we make the soup separately, and sometimes, the sauce separately, and we make the pasta separately. And what I would say for that dish, I would probably try to do a one-pot pasta. So there's a lot of one-pot pasta where you adjust the liquid according to how much is going to be sucked up by the pasta, and you cook everything in one dish. It takes about 10 minutes. What I would also do in that case for pasta is I would boil my water in the kettle before, instead of waiting for the stovetop to cook, to boil the water before I can add my noodles, right? So I would boil my kettle, I would prepare all my ingredients, and I would do a one-pot pasta dish where all is in one and all cooks, and there's less dirty dishes and there's less steps as well. All right. I would also review if I want to use a recipe that I make often, but I want to save a little bit of time. So do I want to use some ingredients that are already, that come smaller, that cook fast? I love chickpea pasta because it cooks into 6-7 minutes. So it takes a little bit longer than regular pasta. Then if you have also sometimes some vegan meat, not just for the environmental, the nutrition value, but from how faster it cooks, that could be a good quick fix. You can review your list. If we go down to your list and we look, okay, is there anything in that list that I can slow cook? Is there any ingredient that I can pressure cook? That brings down the cooking time a lot. That can save you time a lot. Can I put anything in the microwave? I was telling you about microwaving baked potatoes. Big lifesaver. Can I cut smaller pieces of vegetables so it cooks faster? Okay, can I put any of those ingredients, for example, salmon, roasted, like potatoes and broccoli, and with the Google strategy I gave you, do a sheet pan dinner, salmon, broccoli, potatoes, and everything goes in at once, everything comes out at once. You can use parchment paper, save you dishes, save you time. It's in the oven, you can do something at the same time. Does that make sense for you guys? If we review your list and we're like, okay, what could I do a little bit faster or prepare a little bit in advance? If you are to do pizza, I would say you can use a pita bread, you can use a toast, kind of a build your own. And I got like kind of 4 categories for that. Combining the steps, decreasing the cooking time, pre-cutting some pre-cut options, and pre-cook options. And I would go down the list that you've made and I would look at all those points and see like, okay, can I improve? I'm gonna share those also on the Facebook event after, to give you that quick checklist. But it would be combining some steps, and then I give you some like clear example of what can that look like, right? A 1-pot dish, a sheet pan dinner, a make your own taco mini pizza is kind of saving you some steps because everybody's making their own and you get a little bit of support there. If your kids are old enough and they like to do that, or if your spouses can choose whatever they want to put, right? And then cooking time. In what way can we reduce cooking time for the recipe that we have on our list? And then, can I use anything pre-cut? Frozen vegetables are often pre-cut. There's some cans option that when we're really short of time, maybe we can default to. There's some foods that are already coming bite-sized. So cherry tomatoes, leaves, beans, Brussels sprout, you can throw them in a 1-pot pasta, for example, or just like minimally chop them, and that could save you time. I would also really recommend, when you can, using a food processor. So if you use a food processor, you cut all your foods, and then you drop some hot water, a little bit of soap, you give it a bit of a zip, zip, like a little bit of a shake again, so that the soap and the water is cleaning it for you. So you save a little bit of time of getting everything stuck and dry there. So a little bit of hot water, a little bit of soap after you use your food processor, if that works with your food processor, and you can kind of save a little bit of time there. And then pre-cook, that would be, okay, I have my list of go-to meals. Can I pre-cook the rice for 2 recipes? Can I batch cook a little bit of this and freeze it, right? So you're trying to optimize what you do already by trying to either pre-cut, pre-cook, combine steps, or decrease cooking time. Give me a thumbs up or a yes if that makes sense to you guys. Amazing. Okay, Christina, Marie, thank you for your feedback. Okay, super. So we have, and I know that in some cases, you know, people come to workshop and they are looking for the, you know, the kind of the best answer or the new recipe that they're gonna love. And I am more than happy to share with you any dietitian approved recipe on the chat in the event. But I would say one thing is that I truly believe that you guys are, I think it's almost only women tonight, amazing, amazing humans, amazing moms, amazing women. And then you already do a lot of good things. You already know some things about nutrition, and sometimes it's just about reflecting on what we do and having a step in mind, a step process to improve them. So the first thing I would say, if that makes sense to you, is to have kind of a check-in about your hunger to see if that affects the way you plan meals, to export your brain and maybe take a little bit more time to export your brain and start from what you do to balance it out. So kind of like see where the gaps are, if you can add some side dishes, if you can make a Google search to improve a recipe that you feel is a little bit out of balance. And then we're gonna, of course, try to match that recipe list to your kitchen's essentials. Sounds like you guys are already amazing at doing that. And then we're gonna try to look at that list of recipes that we already know a little bit of, well, we're comfortable making. We add a little bit of improvement. We match it to the ingredients that we need. And now we're gonna try to save time when we prepare it. All right? So it's kind of boosting and pimping up what you already do, instead of being told from XYZ person, a dietitian, these are all the recipe that you need if you want to stay healthy and live a million years, right? We were banking on what you do already. So it's probably about time for you guys to maybe start cooking dinner. I'm not sure, but I am open to every and all question. You can either type them in the chat box, or if you want to come on camera and I can see your beautiful face, that is also welcome. Right?
Can I start?
Tell me. Yes.
Yes. How can they follow you? I'm sure that a lot of people here have more questions now, and
Yes.
they're inspired to take the next step forward. So how can they follow you if they want to know more about your tips, strategies?
Yeah. So they can find me on Instagram. I'm gonna share. I can share my handle, and also on Facebook. And I'm gonna be starting a group. I have the page, Jeanne Bedard Dietitian Perfect Balance on Facebook, and it's the same also on Instagram. I'll share the handle, and so I share a few different things on both. I'm about to share a group to start a group that is mostly going to be directed toward women that wants to be good role model for their children in terms of a relationship to our bodies and food. So it's going to definitely include some of that meal planning tips, because I think it's a big part of how we do nutrition, but other things as well in terms of emotional eating and more interoception and like kind of was what I was saying about body intelligence and intuitive eating and all that. Yeah, Alina, everybody's getting hungry now. Yes, for sure. Googling recipe gets you hungry. So I'll definitely be sharing that, Mia, on the WhatsApp event page, if that's all right. Do you think there's a better way to get in touch? I will also put like my contact details if anybody wants to directly get in touch and ask me questions.
I'll also ask the people if they can kindly.
Oh, I don't hear you. It cut out a little bit, I think.
Yeah, so I put out a short survey. It doesn't take more than a minute to the people who are attending so that we can know their feedback from the event.
Okay. That would be great. I would love to. Sorry, can I hear? She was asking to fill in the survey. Thank you, Joe. Joe needs to go. Thank you so much for a wonderful chat. I did speak very fast, as I normally do. I'm sorry if I felt like a sandstorm. I hope you got a few ideas from. We'll fill out the form. Super, loads of great ideas. And I'll see you back on the Facebook page so that we can share more of the best ideas. I can comment on those recipes if you want to share them on the group. I'll comment on ways that I think you could improve them for sure. Anything else? Any question? Mia, do you have any questions?
I'll ping you. For now, no. No, I'm
No?
hungry now. I need to start planning. And you're right.
Yeah.
About
Get on that
meal.
list. Yes, absolutely.
I'll go back to my list. I already have it. You're right. Even though there's a book of recipe, I still go back to my go-to list. You're right about this one. This is
Yes, we do.
fundamental thing.
I mean,
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're probably good and they can probably be a little bit improved, but we need to start from what we do already. Not a question, but more of a challenge. Yes, shoot, Irish Sugar Vera. And you're now thinking this can be done. I'm not sure I understand the question. Thank you very much. I will go cook now. Have a great time cooking, Alina, with your fresh greens and vegetable. Have a lovely evening as well.
I think Sugar is typing.
Okay.